arrive because two other speakers also have to come. Karl Widerquist. The session is called Feasibility of Basic Income in Reality. There are two keywords here. One is the feasibility and the other is reality. Feasibility is easier to define, but reality is not. So I will leave reality alone, but feasibility is something that we can deal with. Karl Widerquist, political philosopher from University-Qatar, supposed to speak on the problem of poverty, property, not poverty. Then Robin, hi Robin. Robin is going to speak on transformation and relationship building via a participation income trial in Northwest Tasmania, right? Robin? Yes. And Anupam Kumar, looks like he's also from India, like where I am from. He's going to speak on empirical work to support a long-run universal basic income and rationalizing welfare programs. That's quite mouthful. Anupam, you're going to expand that. I'm not going to say anything more than that. Then you have Jong-sung from Georgetown University. So we will wait for this 10 minutes. Okay, so you have 10 minutes to go and grab your coffee or whatever. We will wait for 10 more minutes. Anupam and Robin and Mike is there. Hi, Mike.
Otherwise, I'm very happy to go earlier, to give Karl time to come, if that helps.
Yeah, maybe we will wait for 5 minutes, Robin.
Yeah.
For Karl and Jong-sung to come. Yeah, Mia, if you find Karl, please bring him here.
I don't think that close, but I think that like we're very like average.
2-3 minutes. Yeah.
Are you gonna have a student conference? Like we can try to like make.
I think it's better after each speaker we talk about it because we don't have many.
Yes, right. Yeah. Okay, then I think each speaker has a definition time of presentation and then Q&A. One another.
We say 10. Then they'll take 12.
Okay. So 10 will be fine. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll set the timer as 10. And as he mentioned, 5 or 10 minutes earlier, the timetable
very tight.
So strict.
I know, very strict.
So please.
Okay, yeah. So we give the speakers 10 minutes. The weather, for those who are online, the weather here has been quite unpredictable. It suddenly rains a lot, and then suddenly it becomes sunshine. And yesterday there was also a civic drill, which means that most of us tried to be indoors. That's why my throat is not really so efficient today. So, Robin and Anupam, we will wait for another 2-3 minutes and then start. Yeah, there are 2 more speakers. We are waiting for them to come. So, because of this inclement weather, probably they are on their way. Okay. So, where
I
are
think
you
Karl
speaking?
might. Sir, I think Karl might not be joining because he wrote a mail I think 2 days back that like he'll not be joining this session.
Okay. We haven't received anything from Karl, but then the problem of property is very important. Unless we sort property, we can't sort other things, right? Yeah. Isn't it? So because reality is all about property. So let's wait for him. Maybe let's wait for another 2-3 minutes, not more than that. Okay? We had 3 listeners, but I think Mia has gone out somewhere.
What about Holland? We have to go with the church.
Yeah. But no, think. Yeah, I don't know. Robin, you are from which part of the world? It must be pretty early, that part of that side, or middle of the night.
No, Australia. I'm from.
Oh, yeah.
We're
Okay.
just an hour difference.
Okay, that's not a problem, actually. If it were to be Europe, Anupam, where are you?
I'm currently in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, India.
In the US?
No, Chennai, Tamil Nadu, India.
Oh, you are there. You are there. So which means it's pretty early. Maybe
Yes.
5:30 in the morning.
Yes, 5:30 in the morning.
Wow, that's pretty early for you. Okay, without much waiting, let's start with either, I think we can start with Robin. Ladies and gentlemen, this session is about feasibility of basic income in reality. I think we will hear more from the speakers. Robin Krabbe. Robin Krabbe, Live Well, Tasmania. And her topic is transformation and relationship building via a participation income trial in Northwest Tasmania. So welcome, Robin. Could you please introduce yourself and then tell us where you're from so that we actually know where this Northwest Tasmania is. Okay, over to you, Robin.
Thank you very much. Yes, my name is Robin Krabbe. I'm the coordinator for Live Well Tasmania. So Tasmania is that small island south of the mainland of Australia. We like to think we're the more important part of Australia, but there's a big debate about that. And I'm specifically from the northwest part of Tasmania. So it's quite a rural and regional area, not highly populated. I'm wondering if I sent my slides in. I'm not sure if it's possible to bring them up or whether I can share my screen with my slides.
Can Robin share her screen? Friends here, can Robin share her screen? Have you already passed on your PowerPoint, Robin?
I sent my PowerPoint in, yes, I think it was a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
a week or two ago.
We are going to share this file now.
Okay, now they're going to share your PowerPoint, Robin. Oh, yes. We can see that. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. There you go.
So I guess I'll just have to indicate to go from slide to slide.
Robin, could you please give a little more introduction to yourself? Where you're from, what is your discipline, something like that. You're Dr. Robin Krabbe.
Yes, so I studied in environmental science. I did a master's qualifying of environmental science in Victoria, in Australia. And then I moved to Tasmania and did a PhD in social, economic and environmental sustainability and community initiatives, so the capacity of communities to increase sustainability. And I do work a bit with the University of Tasmania but my role with Live Well Tasmania, which is about increasing health and wellbeing and community capacity. And then we have this project of community basic income, which is a variation of participation income as a stepping stone to a universal basic income. So to go to my next slide, to give a summary of what I'll be talking about, is we see the problem as the problem of optimising collective action. It's based on the idea of sustainable care, so meeting basic material and non-material needs with the lowest ecological footprint, recognising that climate change and ecological overshoot is the greatest problem that humanity has ever faced. So that's our priority. I'll talk briefly about the theory of change and why we're looking at a community basic income and why not going straight to a universal basic income. So using a CBI as a stepping stone, and then the Live Well Tasmania campaign. Next slide, thanks. So in terms of the short-term problems, we're aiming to address in the short term the problems of underemployment and unemployment, poverty, particularly intergenerational poverty. We're seeing a lot of rising costs of living at the moment. We have a non-fit-for-purpose welfare system, which is quite dysfunctional. There is a lack of work that could be happening in our communities to improve life for everyone, such as addressing the care crisis in elderly care, in childcare. There's a lack of environmental work that's being done, and a big lack of volunteers stepping up to do this type of work. And an underlying problem of a lack of equity and a need to break this cycle of disadvantage. In the longer term, and the next slide.
Next slide, please.
We have this need for socio-ecological regeneration and transformation. So, and interdependence is our the social condition of humanity. So we need communally structured societies based on relational health as the key to survival and thriving, versus the egocentrism which capitalism tends to perpetuate. So we have this basic social dilemma of reconciling individual interest and collective interests. So this is our basic social dilemma, or our interdependence dilemma, also called a collective action problem. So the need is to satisfy basic human material and non-material needs with a low ecological footprint. So one concept is of sustainable well-being. So this is the synergies of the care of people, care of planet, and transcending this problem of egocentrism. So lots of research shows that success is more likely for socio-ecological regeneration, where you can build in this social suite, which I'll talk a bit more about later. And so addressing the cultural condition of individualism, relational ambivalence and reaction that capitalism has tended to perpetuate. So next slide, thanks. So we know that there is cultural conditioning. So capitalism and neoliberalism produces a particular kind of subjectivity which keeps the system going. So that first quote there encapsulates that. So we have this problem of unemployment, automation, poverty, increasing precarity, and an underlying reduced human potential and psychological immaturity that is perpetuated by our cultural system. which basically means that we tend to focus on contributing to our own survival needs and thriving needs. And there is research which suggests that this is a normalised and pervasive condition. Perhaps 90% of the population are in this sort of focus on own needs and incapacity to serve the larger purpose. And we see the symptoms of inaction on climate change, both at the individual level and the collective level, and polarisation, particularly in terms of political gridlock and political apathy. Next slide. So looking at how transformation can occur, a theory of change is basically that if we change relationships to each other, then that can lead to change. So currently we have a lack of understanding of people with different opinions from us, which is a major barrier to positive change. So building trust by increasing connections between people mobilises significant resources for the benefit of both individual health and well-being and the health of our institutions and collective organisations, particularly our political systems. So relationships of goodwill are a basic need. If you look at attachment theory, they are responsible for the formation of brains with the capacity for self-transcendence. The idea of distributed cognition, that we need diversity of people with different skills to work together with these relationships of goodwill, and particularly for deliberative democracy, for us to discuss together values and how we're going to actually build sustainable systems. So next slide. So the theory of socio-ecological degeneration and regeneration. So with capitalism and even the systems preceding that have tended to degenerate social relationships. So love within families, reduce friendship, social networks, reduce cooperation and trust, more a reliance on hierarchical systems rather than relative egalitarianism, and reduce capacities of social learning and teaching. So regeneration requires rebuilding this social suite, and we contend that community projects via a community basic income can progress this vision. We do have a pull towards transformation of
Robin, you have 2 more minutes, Robin.
Oh, okay. So the next slide is about the pull towards transformation. So really recognizing... Can you have the next slide, please? Really recognizing that there is a very positive vision of regeneration rather than the doom and gloom of climate change, etc. So the next slide, and then the next slide after that, about a transformed work society versus a post-work society. So perhaps if we can skip the next slide, go to the terminology. So we have a universal basic income, which is unconditional. Participation income is a conditional income, and a community basic income is conditional, but it's by the community for the community. On the next slide, please. So it recognises trauma and early stress, affects ability to build a good life, and the process of conditionality can actually add to community capacity building. So the next slide, please. Why a community basic income versus a universal basic income? Firstly, political feasibility. We've spoken to a lot of politicians in Tasmania, and they all very much like the idea of a conditional income versus an unconditional income. Unfortunately, I don't have time to go through the rest of those points. If we go to the next slide, which shows this continuum of social innovation. And a UBI is transformative, but low feasibility, low viability, high risk, and there's high resistance, which all these points can be argued, of course. But just looking at the current conditions in society. So the next slide, please. The community basic income is to replace our current dysfunctional welfare system. Participants are paid a basic income and in return agree to support the health and wellbeing of themselves and their local community, and directly or indirectly community action. So crucially, it is co-designed by the community, not by the government imposing their conditions. So we're looking at a parallel process in Tasmania of a privately funded and crowd-funded aspect of progress towards a community basic income at the same time as a campaign for a federal government trial. So next slide. So the eligibility, training and education tailored for different capacities. So disability, mental ill health, etc. All needs caring roles to support people with these barriers. So nobody would be denied the basic income. Next slide, examples. Food security projects, educational projects, environmental regeneration, easing the housing crisis. Now the point here is that a UBI would require people to coordinate spontaneously to do these sorts of projects, but we think there needs to be much greater attention to supporting people to be able to do them. The next slide, thanks. So we're looking at 3 trial sites. We are looking at comparing a conditional income with an unconditional income, and then having a third trial site with no intervention. Next slide. So we're looking at community-funded projects plus the co-design to feed into this trial, to then enact a permanent community basic income, which then would be a stepping stone to a permanent universal basic income. The next slide, I think, is just a bit of looking at how we would build this community basic income. So a database of community projects and priorities, looking at what is important to our community. So these are possible projects for the privately funded or crowd-based aspect of it. So thank you very much. I hope I haven't gone too much over time there. I think my contact detail.
Robin, what do you think? Should we take questions now, or should we finish all the presentations? What do you all think? Do you have any questions? If you have questions, I think it's more relevant now to ask your questions to Robin.
Yeah, I have a question. Can I be heard though? Hi, Robin. How you doing?
Is that Emma, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Hi, Emma. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was wondering if you have had a chance to look into the CDEP and the CDP for First Nations Australians, and because that was a real success story that went horribly wrong down the track when we had a really right-wing government for a community that had a lot of these community organized welfare for unemployed people. So I was wondering if you looked into that and whether that's informed some of the arguments.
Yeah, thanks, Emma. I haven't had a chance to look at it in detail, but yeah, my understanding is that the first phase was very successful and effective, and then it has, yeah, as you say, gone downhill from there, which really highlights the importance of political pressure to really stand firm in terms of this is the model that works best. If you want the community to be empowered, you can't then turn around and take that power away. Basic needs are best served at the local level. So convincing government that that is the most effective, and it really is not effective for governments in faraway places to try and direct the satisfying of needs at the local level. So yeah, I mean, it's a really good point. It's the ongoing political pressure, and that's where I think we have this problem of political apathy, that politics is a dirty word, and people just are very distant from the idea of being engaged in politics, because we see it as just, you know, corrupt politicians for their own self-interest. So changing that image of politics and starting at the local level of having kitchen conversations about what is important to people, I think is really important, and we're sort of envisaging this community basic income as a real platform for deliberative democracy at the local level.
When you say at the local level, are you also looking at working with local government, or because you're like keeping it separate from federal government, which makes a lot of sense, but like, do you keep it separate from local government, or is it then going to give local government more power? Because local governments don't always act the best either sometimes.
We see it very much as a partnership, and we think that yes, there is problems, potential problems with interests that may not align initially, but we've already been having conversations with our local council, who are we've been working with them, so we've built up trust with our local government over the last 5 or 6 years, and I think that's really crucial, building up that trust and understanding that, okay, there may be conflict about particular things, but it's only through discussion about it, rather than avoiding and saying, well, this is just not going to work, you know, we're not going to try. So it's building up that trust, because I think with most local government, they all have these plans, like our local government has a health and wellbeing plan, an age-friendly plan, a youth plan, and an environmental plan, but they don't have the resources to actually fulfill those objectives. So we've said to them, look, this is a way that you can actually, you know, attract people to work on these objectives in the plan, and they're really interested in that possibility.
We have one more question from Thomas. You have a question?
Yes. So first of all, thank you for introducing me to the idea of a community-based basic income, because I hadn't heard about it yet. So I think it's very interesting concept. Now, I was just wondering, like in practically, what happens to people who say, well, I actually don't really want to contribute something to my community? Are they then denied the income, or are there any control mechanisms? So how does that work?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's a really important question, and one that we're looking at quite deeply, because there is sort of an element of people who've become disconnected to their own value. You know, it's a basic human need to feel valued by others, to have sort of social support, etc. So when people become isolated and become disconnected from that, it's very and often a mistrust of government, a mistrust of bigger organisations, a mistrust of getting involved with any sort of social interaction, basically. We believe that it is important to try and re-engage people with things that support their health and well-being. It's not about saying to people, look, you have to go out and work on one of these community projects. It's more about what do you need for your own health and well-being to just gradually maybe become a bit more socially connected with your neighbours. If you become estranged from your family, you know, maybe trying to re-engage with your family. So it's about supporting people for that. And nobody would be denied the income. It's just about, like, it's weak conditionality, not strong conditionality. So it's about trying to build up people's capacity to increase their own health and well-being, and really supporting them in that, and realising that people may not want to socially engage, but recognising that it is a basic human need and it is really important for people to contribute in whatever way to building a culture of trust and a culture of relational health. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Robin, thank you so much. We have 4 online participants. Mike is there from the US, O Junior and Joe Yusok and Yang. Does anyone have a question or a clarification or any comment online to Robin? Or else we will move on to the next speaker. No questions yet. Okay, so we move on to the next speaker. We have some elbow room available to us because Karl is not here. So we have some elbow room. So we can now move on. If nobody has questions, move to Anupam Kumar. But you can always come back to Robin. Robin, are you going to hang out? It's not such an odd time in Australia now, like in India. So Robin is going to hang out for a little more while. Yeah, Anupam, go ahead. Please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Good morning. Good morning to all the audience and speakers present here. My name is Anupam Kumar.
Anupam, you have 10 minutes for your presentation.
Okay.
Maybe a cushion of another 1 minute, but go ahead, please.
Okay. So I'm currently a student of MSc Economics and MBA at Quantic Business School and Christ University, India. So I'll be apart from that, I'm currently working as a consultant for Center for Effective Governance for Indian States. I'm working in liaison with Tamil Nadu government in India, which is a part of South India. So today I'll be talking about empirical work for the long-term sustainable feasible UBI. Should I present my paper? Okay, yeah.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, your PPT is already there.
Okay. So my topic is empirical work to support a long-run universal basic income and rationalizing welfare programs. So can we go to the next slide? Okay. So the thing is that first I thought I'm not a typical researcher, but I wanted to explore UBI because during the pandemic, there was a lot of discussion regarding a lot of cash transfer schemes that were happening all over the world. So this brought me a lot of this brought a lot of attention for me, because I work a lot with the income and especially with the state governments in India. So that was the reason for the exploring UBI. And that's the reason that even though UBI has a lot of dimensions, I'll be focusing more on the income insecurity and how it helps in maintaining consumer demand or sustaining consumer demand and maintaining economic to keep going, basically smoothing economic fluctuations and some other dimensions. So when I was exploring UBI, some of the historical facts which are very interesting was that the names that were given to the UBI when it was like in a very nascent stage, like scheme for a state bonus. Like it's an income bonus that we receive from our organizations, like where we work, or like social dividend, or like negative income tax. We pay income tax, and but like Milton Friedman coined it as a negative income tax that the state should give it to the to us. So moving on, can we go to the next slide?
Next slide, please.
Okay. So there have been a lot of instances where UBI has been implemented, but like some of the UBI that has been implemented, one was in India, in the central state, Madhya Pradesh, which was quite unconditional in the nature, very small amount, but like complete unconditional. Similarly, there have been cases in Iran, Kenya, Canada, and Finland. So there have been multiple instances, but like most of the instances have been very small in size, and or very limited geographical region, or have some conditions over it that that have been actually transpired to the citizens. So why, since we are discussing universal basic income, and it has been ongoing debate for a very long time, so the reason for keep the discussion going on is because of the fact that like UBI is not like any other welfare program. Welfare programs are meant to like have a very normally in case of India specifically, have a lot of exclusion error. Lot people who are supposed to get it are not able to get it. But in UBI, by default, since everyone is getting it, there is a very low exclusion error. There can be inclusion error, but like there is very low exclusion errors. Second is that like it helps it gives the citizens the power to choose their own preferences, which is one of the major topic that we study in economics. And and the another one factor that is very relevant for India is that the technological support that is necessary for UBI is quite prevalent right now in India, because like the India stack, which is also called Jam Trinity, is one of the stack that was developed by the government itself, which which increase the financial inclusion of citizens a lot, and can already have displayed a lot of benefits through other welfare programs where cash transfers were being done using unified payment interface. Next slide. So so when we are talking about basic income, there are like multiple frameworks. Some of the major categories that I found was target income transfers, where you target a particular community view, or a particular part of the demography. Again, another one was the unemployment cash benefit, targeting only people who are unemployed, or direct benefit transfers, giving benefits only for specific reasons. All of these were cash transfers, but like they have conditions attached to it. So even though a lot of papers have been written on them, but like they are not universal in nature. Therefore, like I wanted to explore more on universal, because they lose these income frameworks, basic income frameworks lose their universality. So I'm talking about universal basic income in terms of which should be covering everyone. It should help in removing, eliminating poverty, having giving a minimum standard of living to all the citizens, and it should not be conditional based on the income or any other conditions of the citizens. So it should not vary with the income. Next slide. Okay. So the now talking about like my topic mentioned that like my topic is for long run UBI plus rationalizing welfare programs. So the thing is that why do we need to rationalize welfare programs? The thing the problem with the current welfare programs are I'm talking specifically in terms of India, that one is that like the administration deficiency is very high, that people or the community which is supposed to receive the benefits of the welfare programs are not able to receive it, or like very few people are able to receive it, but few welfare programs. Like India has several thousands of welfare programs, and most of them are not able to achieve it. Just few of them are able to achieve it. So and that's because of the deficiency in the administration itself, because it takes a lot of manpower to administer these welfare programs. Second is the social stigmatization. People, even if they need the help, they are not able to get it, or like don't go to get it because they are perceived as failures. If you are standing in a line to get your food rations in India at a subsidized rates, you may be considered as a failure, that you are not like someone who has achieved success. So social stigmatization is very high. And as I already have mentioned, inclusion rates or inclusion errors are very limited. So these are the problems with the welfare programs that are being currently run. So so based on that, like I'm not suggesting that we should remove all the welfare programs that India runs, which is like thousands of it. But I'm suggesting that we should rationalize it, categorize only the needed welfare programs, that are like healthcare, education, and food security, which I have mentioned here as PDS. PDS is India's food security welfare program. It's called Public Distribution System. So apart from that, these are the ones I'm highlighting that we should keep, and we can rationalize all other welfare programs that India runs. For that, if we do that, we can free a lot of funds from central sector schemes and centrally sponsored schemes. I'll talk more about them in the next slides. Okay. So the framework of the work that I've done is like it's a working paper. So I'll be working. It's not complete yet. So the first phase of the paper is that doing a preliminary assessment, which is this presentation, where I'm talking about giving data that, like, okay, in India, it is possible to give a universal basic income to all the citizens. The second one will be to how such a kind of UBI will have a relation with other economic variables in a long term. And the last one is that whether this kind of UBI policy will be accepted by the government as well as the citizen. Maybe the government may be able, or the state may be able to accept it, but the citizens may refuse in case of India. So that will look.
You have 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes.
Okay. 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 So going to the next slide. So these are the sources of the data. Most of the data are taken from World Development Indicators, and some of them are taken from the government itself, the government expenditure. Okay, next slide. Okay, so as I mentioned, like the central government in India runs 2 kind of like broadly, all the welfare programs are divided into 2 categories. One is central sector scheme, and another is centrally sponsored scheme. Both of them have a very huge amount, and which is like $179 billion and $57 billion, which totally amounts to roughly over $200 billion. And these are some of the statistics of India's GDP per capita, population growth, adult population, inflation, and GDP growth rate. Next slide. Okay, so I'm suggesting per capita UBI for India as 12,000 INR, that is Indian currency, which is equivalent to $145. And this value is taken directly from the government institutions which have done their study on the UBI and have suggested, such as NITI Aayog and Center for Economic and Policy Research. So it's not an arbitrary number. Again, as I mentioned, the combined welfare schemes have a $237 billion of value, and taking this $145 per person as a UBI, we can say that India would roughly need 140 billion US dollar in the base year, which is quite low compared to the welfare programs that India is running, that $237 billion. Okay. I wanted to focus here on the model that I'm suggesting, that like for this is the model that I wanted to take it for the after the base year. The base year will have the value of 145.88 US dollars, but for the next year, the structural framework would incorporate the adult population growth rate, inflation rate, and economic growth rate as parameters, and define the UBI for the next years. Okay, next slide. I did a sensitivity analysis, which is not here in the slide right now. So it suggested that it's easily feasible. Based on the model that I have suggested, that the changes in the UBI ranged from actually -3 to 5%, where in the period where we had high growth rates, such as during the 2015 and 2014, the UBI value actually goes down due to the model framework, where in the years when we have economic growth very high, very low, the UBI increases up to 5%. So the model seems to work quite good. And based on that, these are the inferences that I received, that like we don't need any additional burdens, such as like we don't need to put another tax on the citizens. Quite contrary to that, maybe we can lower the taxes because we are already spending less on the UBI. And then the second thing is that it will help the government run their administration more efficiently, because they won't have to spend so much of manpower on the welfare programs. Transferring welfare programs through the technology stack that I mentioned would be more transparent and can be easily tracked. So corruption will be very low. And lastly, the technology that I've already mentioned, the JAM stack and DBT and few more others, such as like the food security itself has been now been distributed through technology, is very high in India. So these are the main inferences that I got from my work. Next slide.
Anupam, please wrap up, because there
yes, last slide. This preliminary assessment suggests that UBI can be done for large scale, including everyone. No one needs to be barred from UBI based on feasibility. So this work suggests that feasibility is possible, even though maybe in reality it might not be possible, which is the topic of this session. And second is that it will remove a lot of corruption and red tape from the government, and hence increases the state efficiency and relationship of the state with its citizens. So that's the whole of my presentation. I would like your comments on the...
Anupam, thank you so much. I think it's really, really fascinating. I think we would definitely need much more time. And I think I will, since I am also from India, I will contact you to ask many questions that I have. Since paucity of time, we move to the next speaker, unless anybody has a question to Anupam. Yeah.
I had a question about the long run model for the UBI. I just wondering if you could elaborate on. So in the long run model, it seemed like the economic growth rate was inversely related to the UBI, right? And I was wondering if you could just elaborate a bit on what the purpose of that part of the equation was, and like the function that says.
Okay, so the inverse relationship with the economic growth is because that when you are in a very high growth rate, that means that the citizens are able to provide for themselves a quite high. They have jobs, they have the economy in a booming business cycle. So in that sense, you don't need very high support from the state. So in that way, we can make the UBI very flexible in that, like if you don't need that much, we can reduce it with the stated amount. So that's why it's an inverse relationship. Whereas when you have a like pandemic, during pandemic economic growth rate, people were very in a harsh situations. So in those periods, you need very high support from the state. So that time you need very high UBI. So that's why inverse relationship.
Thanks, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, one more question.
Yeah, so a brief question. I saw that in stage 3 of your research, you're also going to assess citizen support for basic income in India. I was just wondering, how do you plan to do that? Do you already have some data on it, or are you still planning to collect some?
Yeah, for that I'm planning to collect data, because like one of my hypotheses for that is that like a lot of since in India's administrative framework is very high, a lot of people work in that. So I'm planning to take a comprehensive analysis from them to see that how will they respond, because a lot of people will get eliminated from their existing government jobs, which are meant to run these welfare programs, which I want to rationalize for funding the UBI. So they may protest that they don't want to eliminate these existing welfare programs. And but like I want to see conduct a survey and see whether they will be if they know that the UBI amount is quite reasonable for them, whether they will be willing to accept it, that they can go for the other jobs and leave the government job.
Thank you.
Good. Anupam, thank you so much. I think I really like the optimism you have about this UBI in India. I will come back to you later, but
Sure.
we have only 35 minutes of this session. I would now invite Professor Jong-sung to make his presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah. But let me. 네, 이게 지금 맨 마지막 슬라이드가 있는데, 맨 앞서. Hello, I am Jong-sung. My name is Jong-sung. I'm a guest professor and director of Korea Inequality Research Lab at Kachen University. And my co-author, Sung-Ju Lee, assistant professor of Daegu University, has a doctor appointment. So it's not here. Let me start my presentation. So I wonder if you are familiar with the EITC, Earned Income Tax Credit. So our proposal is...
So it's Earned Income Tax Credit.
Yeah, Earned Income Tax Credit.
Yeah, okay, sir.
Yeah. So our proposal is transform it into a universal one on an individual basis. So let me first, for those of you who are not familiar with the EITC, it's a refundable tax credit for low-income working families with children, as it was first introduced in the United States, and it became popularized in the US, and then other countries like Canada, Sweden, UK, and Korea also introduced similar system. And this program was first introduced during the 1970s when the negative income tax discussion was failure. So there is an opposition to negative income tax that has disincentives to work, and as opposed to negative income tax the benefit increases as your earned income increases up to a certain level of income. Then that's the phase in, and then there is a plateau. So your benefit is just a flat up to a certain level, and then phase out. Then becomes zero when the earned income reaches a certain level. And today, it's the largest anti-poverty program of the United States federal government, and many countries in Europe, Canada, Korea introduced a similar program. This has been hailed as a way of helping the working poor without stigma and without work disincentives. Let's move. Yeah. So most studies confirm some work incentives in the phase-in region, but some studies find the minor work disincentives in the phase-out region. And benefits and the taxes are actually shared by both the employees and the employers. So studies show probably 30% of benefit is shared by employees, and 70% actually go to the employees, because employers now can give a slightly smaller wages, but the final wage will be higher because this. So overall, significant effect on reducing poverty, but there is the program is very complicated and hard to understand for general people. And there is a marriage penalty program. So if two people get married, then your benefit may go down. So x-axis is earned income. Your benefit goes up as your earned income rises, and then flattens, and then goes down, faces up. And so this is based on family income, family structure, and there is a marriage family. So let's change it on an individual basis and remove a phase out of the benefit to make it universal, like universal basic income. And instead of annual payment, monthly or quarterly payment. So this was proposed as a way of combining the merits of both the EITC and universal basic income. But this program can be expensive unless the maximum level of benefit is kept very low. And also, there is some criticism. Why should the government give benefits to the rich? And EITC in Korea was first introduced in 2008, and still low levels of benefits and the low take-up and complicated, difficult. And the benefit is like this. And in Korea, there is asset criteria. So if your assets are more than 200 million Korean won or 200,000 US dollars, then you are denied benefits. So if a two-person with 100 million won of assets married, then they will lose the benefits. Oh, what happened to this? Anyway, but the take-up rate is relatively low, and this disappeared. So in Korea, I think it is possible to introduce in Korea because we have a large employee income deduction in the income tax, which is very regressive. So higher income people get higher income, higher tax reduction. So we may remove that and from the tax increase the tax revenue. We can fund the universal EITC, and existing EITC also can be transformed into it. And yes, so replace employee income deduction and the tax credits with the universal EITC on an individual basis, and we can make it fiscally neutral. And in the phase-in range, 10% earned income can be given as benefit, which can cover social insurance contributions for employees. So for those many precarious workers who cannot afford paying social insurance contributions, they can be covered. And then plateau region, and then phase out region. The phase out starts at the average personal income level. And existing EITC should be incorporated into the universal EITC or maintained as a supplementary tool to alleviate universal poverty. And distribution effect of the tables are gone. Yeah, but we can see overall income distribution will improve definitely, because the high income tax reduction from the rich people are distributed among the poor working people. And with regard to labor supply effect, our empirical modeling shows, oh, this is gone, but generally,
the graph is not visible.
Somehow,
there's a problem with the graph. You can't.
I will. Yeah. So after presenting, I will find my other file and.
Okay.
Yeah. So help me with installing the new file. Yeah. Right after 1 minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will show it later. And this is the things I want to discuss with you. So this is transforming the current in-work benefits more like a UBI. Originally, our proposal, including Professor Kang Nam-hoon, was replace this in-work employee income deductions with universal basic income. Then there was a resistance from the working population. Why our benefits should go to non-working people? So we think it's more acceptable for them to make it more fair among the working people. That is the backbone of the idea. And we thought that this can be called a form of participation income, because eligibility is conditional on participation in labor force. But now there is a challenge from some basic income proponents. Why do you exclude those people who are not in paid work? So non-paid work, or is it the discrimination on those excluded? And in response to this question, I am thinking of two directions. One is, so he defended this proposal. This is not a new discrimination. This is a reform of existing in-work benefits in the direction of UBI, more like a UBI. So there is no reason to criticize that this is not a pure UBI. And also, considering that unearned income, like capital income, capital gains, tend to be taxed less than the earned income, we should not abolish, but increase in-work benefits. And this will reform rent-seeking economy. So this, and with regard to the interesting presentation from Robin,
yes,
about Tasmania's participation income program.
Yes,
I think this universal EITC should be run by National Tax Service or National Administration. But at the local level, there can be supplementary participation income programs for non-paid work, like care work, volunteers, whatever. Yeah. So, that can be supplementary or complementary to each other.
Yeah.
So I was very glad about the Tasmania program.
Tasmania. Yeah.
Okay. So would you help me
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's really it's a pity that Professor Karl Widerquist could not come, because for many of the questions that we ask in the basic income movement, the problem of property is really the problem. So I wish he had been here to elaborate on that, because we, in our culture, in our industrial culture, we take inheritance so as a natural thing, as if it's a most natural thing to do. And then you inherit property, but you don't inherit the other things that nature has given us. So we don't take that. So we talk about deserving. Somebody should be deserving before they get any benefit. So somebody is giving a benefit and somebody is receiving a benefit. So I wish the whole idea of property should have been elaborated. But we have, I think we have 10 more minutes or 12 more minutes for anybody to intervene, anybody to, so if you would like to take 2 more minutes.
Now
show your graphs.
Now,
Yeah, your graphs are here.
Go back.
Your tables are here.
몇 페이지 I don't know.
So you can take 2 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Let's start from here. This shows percentage of recipients and the amount of in-work benefits by income decile among the working age population. And first, we show employment insurance benefits. So unemployment benefit and maternity protection benefits, like parental leave. And we see bulk of the benefits go to middle income and the high income people. And the right side, the current EITC program, bulk of the benefits go to low and middle income people. But the problem is the benefit amount is small for the EITC. And for the unemployment benefits and maternity benefits, the benefit level is higher, but that's eligible for those only for those covered in employment insurance, when many of the precarious workers are not included.
Not inclusive.
Yeah, that's the problem. And go next. Yeah. Average benefits from employee income deduction and tax credit and the current EITC by income bracket, you show total average reduced tax due to employee income deduction is 147,001.
Full screen, please.
And
Can you make it full screen? Can you make it full screen?
Yeah. And up to 10 million won and 50 million won, as income level goes higher, the reduced tax gets higher. And the employee tax credit is relatively small. And then so B plus C, every tax reduction you show is very regressive. And the current EITC payment is for low-income people, but they are small. So go next. Yeah. So if we replace employee income deduction and the employee income tax credit with a universal EITC. Then the net gain 1 and percentage of winners for income decile. So lowest 10th income, the 99% winners. So you can see in the upper level of soul income, they are the losers. So overall distribution is improved. Yeah. Go next. Next is similar one. And the labor supply effect. There is a lot of no change in labor supply effects among the low income decile, because in the low income decile, there are many people who are not working. So if they begin to work because of this benefit, then there may be change. But we are assuming just the currently working people are working and the not working people are working because these limitations of Mathur. But you can see among those working people, most of the low-income working people, their labor supply will increase. So this is the
So can you wrap up, sir?
yeah. This is the end.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay. We have another maybe 7-8 minutes. Yeah. Please go ahead with your questions to Professor Yu.
Yeah, so I think the plan is really interesting. I was just wondering, you said there's already an existing scheme, but it has a high take-up, non-take-up rate. So my first question would be, why is there such a high non-take-up? And then the follow-up question is, how do you tend to deal with that in the plan that you are proposing now? Because you can have a universal scheme on paper, but if the money doesn't end in the pockets of the actual people, then it's not fully universal, right? So it's very important.
The current program is on a household. Which one? 마이크 안 써도 돼요? The current EITC program is on a household basis, and they consider household assets as well as earned income and whole total income. So the program is very complicated, hard to understand, and so because that many people do not aware of the program, and secondly, although their income level is low, because it's due to the asset criteria, many people are excluded. And by changing it into an individual level program and removing this asset test and just according to your income level, your benefit automatically comes. So then it can become universal.
Can you then maybe just follow up? Because if I understand correctly now, it is not paid automatically, but you have to apply for it, or because a lot of these these type of schemes, like in Belgium, we have similar things, but they are paid automatically. So the tax authorities do it automatically. So you as a citizen don't have to do anything, because the tax authorities know what your income is, and they know if you are below the level, then you are eligible. So it will be put into your bank account. Or,
so is it seen as a welfare
automatic allocation?
You have to apply for.
Yeah, I think it can be best simply administered by annual tax return.
Okay.
So you can claim refundable tax credit like the current EITC, but on an individual basis. So your earned income level is above some level, then your benefit is flat.
So when you're filing your returns, tax returns, You make a claim as part of that. So which means it's almost like automatic.
It's almost automatic, but people need to know how to make the claim, right?
But then if you
currently those who are eligible can text message.
Okay.
Apply.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. Okay, so we have 3 cases here: the Indian case, the Tasmania case, and the Korean case. So, well, this is about feasibility of basic income in reality. So, any other questions? We have 5 more minutes. Please go ahead. If you have any further questions, Professor, you have any questions?
No.
Anybody else? I think all the 3 are very optimistic and very positive positions, which I really like. And India is a bit more complicated, but I really like Anupam's optimism here. If you have any further questions.
There is a question online. Somebody's put
Yes,
their
Robin.
hand up.
Yeah, somebody online is asking a question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Gio.
I have a question to Robin. Yeah. I'm curious that the government could make some meaningless work for giving community-based income, because this thinking is from the experience of South Korea. Because in South Korea, in pandemic period, the government make useless and meaningless job to give income for the youth. The job like just sitting in front of the gate of building and so on. So, and then they have to take a compulsory education just very formally. So I have a question: is there any difficulties to make and distribute meaningful compulsory education and community work? And the people are happy to participate in. So yeah, this is my question.
Sorry, what was you mentioned about compulsory education?
It's kind of some citizens' obligation or some attitude to community like this.
Well, basically, you mentioned about meaningless work. I mean, the core of our project in Tasmania is precisely about meaningful work, and it's about the community deciding what counts as meaningful work and what is the priority for meaningful work. So the government may have their own ideas, which we would listen to, but it's really about prioritising what local people see, what is necessary for people's health and well-being, and building that capacity. Education is a whole other area as well, in terms of we need transformation of our educational systems, and we need to decide what should be compulsory education and what should be discretionary. So that's a whole other really interesting and important conversation as well, which we hope would be facilitated by increasing the capacity of people to be able to discuss these issues. So thanks for your question, and hopefully that's answered the main part of your question.
Yes, thank you.
Robin, thank you, Robin. We have an online question from Michael. Why not make the Korean EITC refundable so some income goes to those without work? Sir, the question is to you.
I don't understand the question. Sorry.
Why not make Korean EITC refundable? Michael, I think.
So, yeah. So, it's refundable, but those who are not working, those who do not have earned income, cannot claim EITC.
Okay, okay. So you have to be already part of the game in order to make a claim.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So if you're not part of the game, if you're not working, if you're a housewife, or if you are at home doing care work, you will not get it.
Yes.
Yeah, Michael, does that answer your question, Michael?
And
Actually, not because the question is,
benefits.
why does your proposal not include a refundable dimension? Is there a reason in the context of Korean politics why you chose not to expand the EITC in that way, to include people who are not working as well as people who are working?
Yeah.
Actually, I can answer your question in two ways, actually. Yeah. First is, this is a reform of existing in-work benefits. And secondly, we can think of supplementary program, perhaps at the local level. At the national level, it will be really difficult to include people who are not in paid work. It will be very difficult. But some programs like a Tasmania program, that kind of local program, maybe supplementary for this.
So I think Michael is also asking the question, is it something about Korean politics that is not allowing you to make that claim for people who are not working?
So as we already said, we originally proposed remove the employee income deduction, and then income tax revenue goes up. We use it to fund the universal basic income. That was actually our initial proposal. Then there was a resistance from the working people. Why those benefits who are given, which are given to working people, to go to those non-working people? It was hard to overcome that resistance.
Okay, the system is asking me to wrap up and close the session. There's so much pressure, but I'm delighted to see Karl here. Karl, despite the system saying no to me, can I give you 5 minutes to make a point about the problem of property?
No, it doesn't really fit in the session.
You were supposed to speak here.
Didn't you get my email? I emailed 2 days ago.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I said I'd drop out to give more time for speakers.
Okay.
Mine didn't really fit very well in this session.
Okay. Great. Okay, friends. I think I will have to close the session here because the other session is already overlapping. And I thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Anupam and Robin, thank you so much. If you can have more. Yeah.
Robin, I lived in Australia for 4 years, but didn't have a chance to go to Tasmania. Someday.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.